What's up? I'm the Kind Assassin, and today I'm talking about episode 2 of Ahsoka. Now, the whole idea of me watching the show, going in blind, was to see whether I'd be able to follow along. And so far, I have been able to follow along. There's Ahsoka and her team who want to get to Thrawn to stop him from getting into power, and then you have Morgan and her team trying to get to Thrawn to get him into power, right, to bring back the Empire. So that's a pretty simple storyline to follow, no issues there. But I do find that I am lost a lot of times. I really don't have an emotional attachment or even any kind of investment in anybody in the show. Maybe going in blind, not watching Clone Wars, not watching Rebels was a disservice because I can't seem to really get into it. But also on the flip side, my question is, shouldn't the writers, the creators of the show try to bring everybody into the fold? You know, why should I have that background knowledge to really be invested? You know, I don't feel like the stakes are high. I don't feel, scared or sad or happy, or there's just really nothing happening for me. And I shouldn't have that background, I don't think, to really, be invested, I guess. There's other shows and movies that have come out in the universe that were completely brand new, right? Brand new characters. Nobody had any background other than the connection to the bigger storylines of Star Wars that were out at the time. I feel that I was really excited and I fell in love with characters. Like, for example, Rogue One. That's my most favorite movie of all of the Star Wars movies and all of the shows. And, Jyn Erso and Andor are my most favorite characters. And I really felt so much connection to them about their struggles, where they came from, what they were trying to accomplish, their character arcs, their growth. It was all in the writing and the story. And again, everyone was blind because it was all new. Similar to The Mandalorian, right? That was a completely new storyline as well. Mando was new, Grogu's new, but you still felt like you were wanting them to always succeed and survive and live happily ever after. Even Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, even though I watched both of those shows in order, I feel like if I had watched Better Call Saul on its own, I would have been emotionally connected. Like, I didn't need to have the Breaking Bad storyline or all of that background to really be engaged and fall in love with some of those characters. Going in blind, again, has, made me wonder whether I need to have that background or if the writing should allow me to still be emotionally attached somehow. Maybe it'll take time. Maybe over episode 3, 4, 5 or whatever it is, I'll eventually become invested, but we'll see how it goes because right now I'm just kind of falling flat, or the show is falling flat for me. So just a couple of observations. The Toil and Trouble name of the episode reminded me of like an incantation or a spell.
Double, double, toil and trouble.
So just kind of bringing back that witchy kind of vibe, connecting a little bit back to the Night Sisters, right? And it made me wonder if, I wondered this in the first episode too, if Morgan is a witch. Is there witches in Star Wars? I don't know. And maybe in Rebels and Clone Wars, it is revealed that there are witches or something, but again, I'm lost on there. And speaking of Morgan, it was interesting that Morgan and Baylan seem to have a little bit of, they came to odds a little bit in the show. In the scene where they're opening up the map in that temple, and Morgan's explaining that Thrawn is communicating with her, that he, speaks to her in her dreams, and Baylan seems skeptical, like, come on, that's not possible. But it's interesting that he is skeptical about that, even though he's a Jedi, and he does use the Force to try to find Ahsoka later on in the show, in the last scene. So he seems to be logical and grounded in reality, but he also believes in the Force, right? So it seems like that's kind of at odds. But Morgan and Baylan came at odds again later in that last scene when Baylan said, it's a shame that we're going to have to kill Ahsoka.
To kill her would be a shame. There are so few Jedi left.
And Morgan's like, oh, are you sentimental?
Sentimental?
Truth.
kind of questioning him. And he's like, no, I'm just speaking truth, right? Like, it's going to be sad to lose another Jedi. So he seems to be very connected to Jedi culture, but he's very skeptical of Morgan and her powers, if she is a witch or whatever power she has. Something else I noticed was during the shipyard scene where the guy, I can't remember his name, but that actor was actually in another show that I really, really loved and was canceled right after this like cliffhanger. So it's 2 seasons long. And there was this cliffhanger that was going to really move the story forward. And it's kind of everyone was like waiting for this moment, and it was canceled. The show is called Colony. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on USA back in the day, and it was just never resolved, right? It was so sad. But anyway, the character in shipyard scenes was in Colony, and he played a similar like bureaucratic type of worker.
All Imperial assets were dissolved and redistributed, including those held by Morgan Elsbeth.
And he kind of worked both sides, try to see like how he could come ahead. And he was a little bit slimy, so kind of similar to what his character is in this show. And it was interesting that he said, oh, like workers, they don't care about sides, they just want a paycheck. But it turns out that there's a lot of people who are still Imperial loyalists. It reminded me of the character in the Mandalorian show. I can't remember her name, but she was a traitor, right? And she ended up going through like this reformation thing, right? But it didn't work. Like, she was still loyal to the Empire. One of my most favorite parts of this episode was actually a character that I kind of ragged on in the last episode, Sabine. So she was like a rebel, a hothead, like didn't listen to anybody. And in this episode, she kind of seemed to have like a chip on her shoulder. She was very bitter about Ahsoka abandoning her, right? And I mean, it's all, for good reason. Like that does suck. But she was holding on to it, right? And letting that define her and her decisions. So the droid guy talked to her and kind of like slapped her up the side of the head and said, look, you're just wasting time, right? Like, it is what it is. You just need to move forward. And so she decided to move forward. She kind of humbled herself and went to Ahsoka and said, like, let's do this, right?
I'm ready.
And I think Ahsoka, seeing her, take that step really for both of them to put the past in the past and move forward together and focus on what really matters, right? Which is what Ahsoka said in the first episode, right? This isn't just about what happened in the past. It's about preventing another war, which is a bigger thing to worry about than, holding on to past pain. Anyway, so I thought that was really a great step forward for both of them. And they ended up becoming master and apprentice at the end. Ahsoka refers to Sabine as Padawan.
Take us out. Padawan.
So I think that was really nice that they reconnected and are kind of going forward again in a positive way. And then right before that happened, Sabine, and this is kind of related to, again, me not being emotionally involved or have any kind of connection, Sabine touched the mural, and that mural showed up in the first episode, right? And it's like these people, this team, I guess, that, won the day back in the day. She touched Ezra's face, and I feel like people who knew all about what happened, maybe that was like a really emotional scene, but again, it just fell flat to me. Like, okay, fine, she misses him, or I just don't feel that I should have had to have that background to enjoy this. And I am enjoying it, but I feel like not as much as if I had watched all of that stuff. Anyways, that's my reaction, my recap, my thoughts on episode 2. I am looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm looking forward to the Great Thrawn reveal and kind of seeing how it all plays out. So come back next time for episode 3. Thanks for watching. Peace.